Why I hate Asian-made Mercedes parts so much. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about why I absolutely can't stand and will not install parts that are made in Asia. We're talking about Turkey, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, not Japan. Japan's the exception, because there are some Japanese-built Mercedes parts. But we're talking mostly about all the countries in Asia where, I don't know, you buy car parts from when you're looking for the cheapest thing available. But first, let's do some promotion. First of all, Patreon. I wanted to thank our Patreon subscribers or supporters. We really appreciate you guys. Our next Mercedes Classics video is going to feature a really nice low mileage 123 that my friend Ryder owns once I'm done with the car. And your donations are going to help create this video, this long format video. And if you're not a Patreon supporter, we'd love to have you. Second of all, we're going to talk about these shirts. If you like these shirts, you can order one through, how do we order one, Thomas?
Oh, right up the YouTube channel.
Right there. Link is in the description. So if you want to let people know that you love your classic Mercedes and you're not just like some guy on Facebook being like, hey guys, I just bought this slammed W210 and I need some advice about how to get the transmission to work again after it blew up. You know, if you're somebody that actually takes your time and tries to do the job right, this shirt will make you smarter and more competent. Power of the shirt. And before we dive into this video, a quick word from our sponsor, Good Used Gaskets. If you watched our last video, you'll know that we picked up a sponsor. And Good Used Gaskets is a brand of gaskets that are used. And the tagline is better than Felpro. So the folks at Good Used Gaskets were kind enough to send us some promotional items. Unfortunately, they were all for domestic vehicles, so we weren't able to use any of them. But if you have a vehicle that you don't care about and you just need to make it run and go away, you may want to consider Good Used Gaskets. And right now they're doing a 50% off special on all used head gaskets. There's no labor warranty provided with the used head gaskets. Okay, so let's talk about Asian parts. I don't install Asian parts in my customers' cars unless there's absolutely no alternative. It's like an absolute last resort. I will comb the bowels of eBay looking for NOS parts, sometimes even resorting to using used parts before I will use Asian-made parts. And for the most part, I lump parts made in Turkey in that category, in case you're wondering. There are three reasons why I don't like these parts. I don't hold anything against Asian people. You know, and again, we're talking about, just so you know, Japan is the exception. Because your Nippon Denso compressor on your Gen 2 126 came out of Japan. And if you have a V8 car, so did your alternator belt. But we're talking more about, we don't know where else to go to get a part made, and we need to get this part made because there's still a market for it, so let's just make it in China. One of the first reasons that I despise these Asian parts so much is because the people that are building them or making them or tooling up for them are never actually going to be putting them in the cars. Like, you're the test engineer, you as the consumer are the person that is testing the part to make sure it fits and doesn't blow up. Whereas if you're using the original supplier in Germany, you don't have to go through all this translation work and praying that the uneducated person that's running the machine, that's stamping the rubber part for your Phoebe drive shaft center support, gets it right on center or whatever, makes the rubber hard enough. You know, a lot of these OEM manufacturers have been doing this for years. They've been making the same part over and over again for years. They know it works. Now, there are occasionally some exceptions, but for the most part, I know that if I get a set of brake pads from Jurid, I can trust them not to squeal. If I get a Zimmermann rotor, I know it's made in Germany out of the correct dies where it actually does fit on the car. I know it's not going to warp under a specific heat load. when we see when we see parts that are never going to have any application on the car in their home country, in their home environment, where the person making the parts is completely 100% disconnected from the end user, totally disconnected from the end user. Because people in Asia, for the most part, other than Japan, there's not a huge classic car culture in Asia. Most of the car, like, find me a 15-year-old Chinese car. They don't really exist. Those parts are so far removed from the end user that it's just like, making a part for a rocket when you don't even know how to fly an airplane. The second reason is because the real reason why do manufacturers go to Asia? Because they're trying to get labor and materials costs down. So I automatically know that the part's been built to the lowest standard possible. A few years ago, SKF opened bearing factories in China. And when I compare an American-made NOS SKF bearing that's in like a 115 rear wheel bearing kit versus a modern SKF bearing that's made in China, you can tell there's considerably more play. If you take the two bearings and they're dry and you spin them, the SKF one that's made in China is noisier, rattles more. Sure, the bearing might be in spec, but you have to slam it twice as hard to get it to fit over a shaft. Once they take all that stuff and move it out of the factory in the United States or Germany and ship it overseas, you think that machine, when you set it up and plug it in, is going to work 100% as well as it did, day one? Probably not. And then you combine that with the end user problem of the end user being so far removed from the manufacturer. They might as well be making like wheels on a hospital bed versus wheel bearings for your Galinda wagon. Now, a third reason why I am so opposed to using these parts is because I don't like doing warranty work, and because we charge, I hate to say it, I'm not a fan of charging what we charge to repair people's cars, but I have to do it because I want my employees to have a good life. I want my wife and my child to have a good life. I don't want my employees complaining every day, worrying that they're getting underpaid. At the same time, I also like having financial security. So my biggest problem with these parts is they introduce the possibility of us having to do work again, or the customer not getting the absolute best possible service they're going to get. When you pay top dollar for a car or top dollar for labor on a car, you should be getting genuine Mercedes parts. You shouldn't be getting anything else. Unless those parts are made in Germany by the OEMs, such as a Bosch EHA made in Germany, or a, I don't know, what's a good example? A Hansa NOS dryer made in Germany by the original equipment manufacturer. You shouldn't be getting a TRW made in Malaysia ball joint. I'm just saying, you shouldn't. We've seen, because we use such good, high quality parts, there's a significant cost increase associated with those parts. It goes in every estimate. Most of my customers, though, understand it because we make it explicitly clear of what we're using. My problem is with a lot of fly-by-night shops, they put this stuff in and it breaks 6 months later. It's worn out 2 years later, So if you're running an automotive repair business, it's something to think about. Now, there are some exceptions. Until Febby brought back the guide rod mounting kits, which are supposedly made in Germany, if you believe anything Febby says, we had to use, I can't remember the name. I think it was, maybe they were Euro parts. Maybe they were that one brand that starts with a V, not Vallejo, but anyway, all that stuff is made in China. So as a result, we had to take the rubber cups because that was the only part that wore out, and we'd keep everything else, the original hardware. Scary, right? I hate thinking about it. And parts like that can really put a damper on a huge job. In fact, those parts had to be checked numerous times, and sometimes they even have to be machined and filed to fit better. Thankfully, no car that has ever left the shop is running around with a Chinese brake part, engine part, major suspension part, such as a control arm or a ball joint, steering part, any system that could cause catastrophic failure and kill or injure the driver of the vehicle I just won't use Asian parts because the warranty possibilities are so potentially damaging. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful, and I hope you apply this logic to your own Mercedes project. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And think about supporting us on Patreon if you haven't yet. Maybe just a one-time donation or something. We'll talk to you in the future, and don't use Asian, Chinese, Malaysian, Turkish stuff on your Mercedes.